Good afternoon. Today I have the profound honor to introduce you to Lara. Lara and I worked together for 4 years before she graduated from the program, 2017, with her social work degree. So I get to chat with you today about our partnership. And I also get to call her one of my most esteemed professional colleagues, which is pretty cool.
I almost clapped.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So could you start out at the beginning, just telling folks what was it that brought you through our doors in the first place to check out Project SelfSufficiency?
Sure. So in 2012, I was going through a challenging divorce, and I had 5 kids, ages 4 to 10, along with me. So I had no housing, and I had no stable income, no job. I needed help. Someone at the county services recommended Project SelfSufficiency, and that first day I walked through the door, I met you.
I remember that day. Very often when people walk through our door for the first time, they're scared, and they're kind of fighting for their survival, right? Yeah. So at PSS, we believe that our single parents, oh, I said PSS, I'm sorry. At Project SelfSufficiency, we believe that single parents need to have their basic needs met, things like housing and food and safety, so that they can use their minds and their energy to focus on the long game plan, education and career. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the needs you were facing on day one?
Yeah. Probably housing was the biggest thing I was dealing with. Because of my large family, there wasn't a lot of options. If there was enough room for us, we couldn't afford it. And so that was kind of the first obstacle that we had to face. I was looking at housing in some apartments that were large enough for me and my kids, but I didn't really get a good response from them. And then you encouraged me and said, go down there, and I went in person and was met with a much better reception. And then, I got a recommendation from you, and I got funding from Project SelfSufficiency for the down payment, and I finally had housing.
That made a big difference. So, like so many people who start this program, our partnership began during a time of displacement and enormous stress. So, what really stands out to you about that time as we were working together to tackle these goals?
So, meeting you and being paired with you was serendipity. I had experienced a lot of helping relationships, therapists and people with the county, but what I experienced with you was different, and it gave me hope. You didn't coddle me or try to do things for me. You didn't try to fix me. But on the other hand, I didn't experience judgment from you. You didn't act like I was a lost cause or that I couldn't get to where I wanted to go. So that was huge. You told me that you would always support me and help me, but that I had to be willing to do the work as well.
And you did. You worked really hard. So you had actually been trying to go to college off and on well before you came to Project SelfSufficiency. So can you tell folks about what it was like to start focusing on who you were, your interests, your talents, and how that transformed your experience returning to college?
Yeah. So like you said, I went to college for a short time after high school, and then I got married and I immediately got pregnant. and I decided that school with a newborn just wasn't really feasible, so I dropped out. And then throughout my marriage, I dreamed about going back to school, but going to school with 5 kids seemed like an impossibility. Little did I know. Right. And then, I don't remember what the question was anymore. Sorry. Okay. And then we started the career counseling stuff together. We worked on like values and the things that I was interested in doing. But there were so many things that I was interested in doing. I didn't really know what to focus on. So we did all those assessments. We did the jobsology, and I started discovering that I wanted to work with people, and I wanted to help others, and I wanted to use some of my life experience. So.
And then we sent you out to go talk to folks in different career fields, teachers. Can you tell folks about that?
Yeah. So I shadowed a couple teachers. That was one of the jobs that came up. And then I sat down with one social caseworker with Larimer County, and that's when lightning struck. I knew I wanted to be a social worker. It was wonderful.
So did you always want to be a social worker, or?
Well, okay. So I don't actually usually admit to it, but when I was a child, I used to go over to my aunt's house, who was a social worker. I was probably like age 8 to 10, and we would listen to conference tapes, you know, the old cassette tapes. Yeah, and they would be talking about social work theory and principles of practice. And then afterwards, we would have a rousing discussion about how to apply it in social work practice.
So basically what you're saying is you were nerding out on social work way before all of this.
Yes.
Okay. So what would you say were the greatest struggles you faced as a single parent with 5 children going to school?
For me, it was that urgency and the obligation I felt to work, to earn money, to support my kids. That was huge. But I didn't have a degree, so how was I going to do that?
Vicious cycle.
Yeah, it was like I could start a job where I was earning, $10 or $11 an hour, but I knew that was going to keep me in this poverty cycle.
So what was the compromise, or what was the solution we found to allow you to take care of that and go to school?
So with a lot of inspiration and prodding from you, I really went after scholarships, and I got lots of scholarships to cover living expenses, school, books, everything. And then kind of to make me feel like I was still providing, I did work study or worked part-time.
Right. And then let's talk a bit about some of the victories, some of those moments that were kind of the shining spots for you in school.
So for me, I think that part of the victory was having my kids watch me get through this struggle, go to school, work hard, gain confidence, and do it all while still like caring for them and being with them. I guess the other part to that is that I got to focus so much on school that I got good grades. And then also in my senior year, I got to do student teaching.
So humility is just such a lovely virtue, so I'm going to have to brag on her a bit. That job was a really big deal because the social work faculty, they're keeping their eyes out for who are the students here in this cohort who could mentor younger students, who could teach them how to do their first helping relationship, and that was her. Okay, so tell us about your career and tell us about the work you're doing now.
So when I graduated in 2017, I already had a job lined up, of course, because we put in millions of applications. And I was working for a treatment facility, but it was in Estes Park. And so the travel and also needing to stay overnight was challenging.
Yeah. As a single parent, that's tough.
Right, yeah. So now I'm working for Lara County. I work in the work release program. So what we do is we're trying to keep people out of jail and serving their sentence in the community so they can still support their families. And so since I'm a social worker, you know, I have a social work degree. Working in the criminal justice field has been challenging, but I get to bring all of my values as a social worker to that. And for me, that's like a huge fulfillment.
It's got to be huge for the people you're working with, because if anyone needs to be treated with dignity and hope that they can change, it's right there, right? So what excites you right now in your personal and family life?
So my oldest son, who was 11 when I started in Project SelfSufficiency, he is graduating from high school this year in 71 days, but who's counting? Yeah. And it's really awesome to be able to come full circle and pass along a lot of the things that you taught me, you know, about making decisions and working hard. And it's really awesome to just like watch his journey and be excited for what's going to come next.
Laura's son is a pretty amazing young man. He's been doing an internship, and he has been getting college credits while going to high school. So he's just trying to figure out what he wants to be when he grows up. And Laura's been able to be not only a mom, but sort of a good career counselor and coach. Laura, how do you think your kids experience Project Self-Sufficiency during the 4 years?
It's a good question, because they were definitely with me on the journey. I think that when you're going through a lot of stuff, what you want for your kids is you want them to still be able to experience normalcy. With Project Self-Sufficiency's help, we got to take part in programs like the back to school program where they got to buy clothes for going back to school. And we got meals donated to us for holidays. And all of that stuff was amazing. But I think kind of the amazing part is like they didn't know that they were getting charity. They didn't know. They just knew that they were getting to do a lot of the same things that all of their friends were getting to do, and they didn't have to miss out.
I'm really glad for that, and I'm glad we could help with that. But part of their normal was that you were the rock. You were the rock. So when you think of Project Self-Sufficiency, and if we forced you to put it into 3 words, what would you want to say?
Well, okay, it's hard to do just 3, and you're not gonna like my first one, but the first word is definitely Nicole. You, yes. Because you were my mentor, and you helped me without trying to fix me, and that was huge. And the second word, I forgot the second word, because I was thinking about you. Support. Thank you for that support. Support, because not only did I have you, but I had an enthusiastic team of people behind me wanting the best for me. It wasn't just you, it was everybody at Project Self-Sufficiency. Even participants, you know, it's like a family. The third thing would be hope. And that's a huge one. When life gets scary and chaotic, you know, it's tempting, and you could just stay there and be in that mess. And when someone like Project Self-Sufficiency and when you guys come along and help out, you give us the hope that we can keep going. You give us this vision that the mess that we're in can one day be turned into a message. And that's where I'm at. That's what I want to do.
Taking all of those experiences that were really painful and hard and turning it into something really beautiful, right? Well, we're at the end here. Okay. So is there anything that you'd like to say to the audience to close?
Sure. I know that I've thanked Project Self-Sufficiency and you a lot, but I would like to just say again that if you have ever contributed or given to Project Self-Sufficiency, you had a direct impact on my life and my children's life, and I thank you for that. Our lives are completely changed because of what you do. And then I would also like to say to those of you who haven't given before, think about giving today. I know it's an ask, but there are other single parents who need to have the opportunity to walk in to Project Self-Sufficiency and receive the help that I received.
I just thank you so much for being here. All right. So we're going to turn things back over to Christy.